Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John gets a phone call from a football legend and considers taking a year off from New Year's resolutions. Meanwhile, I stifle my crisis and tell the story of the time John and I both catastrophically forgot someone's name. Plus, highlights from this week in history. Today's episode is not sponsored by fireworks, the best way to celebrate the new year and terrify your pets.
It's a new year, Johnny. It's another new season of Talk About That.
New year, new you. Isn't that what people say?
How many church series will be launched in the new year that try to use the word new? See, because I can't even do it now. I'm writing that series now.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, I'm just going to be cliche no matter what I do.
I want to get up as a pastor and just be like, look, guys, time is a construct. None of this matters. Just start there.
Yeah.
Don't even.
You're probably not going to do any better.
Just be nihilistic with it. Don't even.
I am very cyclical in my thinking now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just aware that I'm going to lose and gain 20 pounds once, twice.
Oh, is that what
maybe
you've accepted
times.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, as long as I always come back down.
We should say today that as we record, it is your birthday.
Today is my birthday.
What a yeoman you are. What a warrior.
I'll tell you
this
what.
guy comes in. You must love the people.
I do. I just had to be near the listeners today on my special day. I'm 44 today, Johnny, but I don't feel a day over 43.
That's such a dad joke.
Yeah, I know. I tell it every year. I told someone today, it's like, I'm just telling it for my own sake now.
Yeah.
Now I don't really expect
just saying
anything
it to say it
from all of you. So,
well, you made it. 44.
Yeah.
It's been a heck of a year. 43 was
it
was a tough one.
Yeah,
You had some journeys.
Yeah, I found myself extra grateful to be alive. Like,
Yeah.
I did think about this though, and this is not cliche. I told this to my mom. I mean this. I woke up today. I thought, 44 years ago, I did nothing.
Right.
Like, we're celebrating me.
Right.
Shouldn't we celebrate my mom? Like, she did all the work that day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I was just like, hey, I'm here. You know, like,
Yeah.
I could poop on myself, whatever I wanted to do. I had no responsibilities.
Just like now.
Just, and we just celebrate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're celebrating the wrong thing.
I would like to take a minute and celebrate your mom.
Okay.
I think she's pretty great.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Mama D.
Yeah. She was so kind, telling me all the great things about me. And
She did that? Oh, she's already done that?
Yeah.
Does she do the thing where she calls you like the moment that you were born in time? She calls you that?
No, I don't know.
That time of
I
day?
don't know. No, we don't do that.
There we were.
She does tell the story. I think all three kids,
Yeah.
we have the same story in that my
She
dad...
told you that you were the favorite?
In my case, my dad was always working, and he was often outside working, like on the lawnmowers or whatever. And so he would always say, now look, I'm going to get my work clothes on.
Yeah.
If you're about to go into labor, I need you to tell me now. And Mom's like, I can't tell you. It's not like I'm not in control.
Yeah.
Well, look, I just don't want to get all dirty, and because Dad would get nasty, greasy, dirty.
And then I could run to the hospital.
Right. Every time.
Yeah.
So he had gone outside and started working for 30 minutes, and she went into labor, and he's like, he has to go get cleaned up.
Yeah.
You know? But it's always that. I think I've heard that story about all three of us, because my dad always, it's like, well, we got 10 minutes we could spare. I want to go outside and work.
Man.
So he was the yeoman.
He was, that guy. Phew. Well, you have a Christmas season birthday, the 28th.
Yeah.
As we record.
Yeah.
The 28th. And how does it feel to be a complete distraction from baby Jesus?
It feels terrific.
That's it. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel bad for the Christmas birthday people. It's a syndrome. It's like middle child syndrome is a thing.
You think?
Like it doesn't anything it forms something in your personality? Let's get into it.
Well, number one, you're a Christmas baby if your birthday presents were wrapped in Christmas paper.
Uh-huh.
And
They cross out Jesus and put John or whatever.
Mary John.
Happy birthday, Jesus. No, if they took your birthday paper, it's happy birthday, Jesus, it'd be like, yeah, Mary Johnmas. I don't know what they would say.
Secondly, if your birthday presents were ever under the Christmas tree. So there's a thing you don't expect.
Wow.
You non-birthday babies don't understand this. I remember having birthday presents because, they're already wrapped. You might as well put them with the rest.
Everybody's a birthday baby. You mean non-Christmas birthday
What did I say,
babies?
birthday baby?
You non-birthday babies. What kind of weird world are you living in?
You
You test tube people. who just emerged from the ooze.
You just, non-Christmas babies. Sorry.
Yeah. But
Sorry.
you had birthday presents under the tree. I never knew this.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know about this.
I don't know. I think I
Did
was
you get a
always
lot
fine
of
with
same
it.
and though? Like it was like, this is for Christmas and your birthday. You get a lot of those, right? From aunts and uncles?
Maybe from aunts and uncles, not ever from your parents. They really wanted your birthday to be distinct.
But do you think that they just divided the amount of presents that you were going to get and said like, okay, let's put birthday on 2 of these? Or do you think you literally got extra from your other siblings?
I don't know.
We need to get your siblings on here.
Can we compare?
Let's have this out.
I want to see
I'm
receipts.
I'm going to start some crap today.
When you're an introvert,
Yeah.
like as an adult, I love the 28th is my birthday.
Okay.
Because this is the down week of the year for everybody.
Yeah.
So I just really fly under the radar this week.
And you like that.
I do.
You don't want people to make a big deal. When they come, so if you're in a restaurant and somebody's like told the wait staff that you don't like that? When somebody comes out and sings the song?
If it means I get free food, I'm great with it.
You'll do that.
Yeah,
but you have to put up with
free ice cream, I'll do anything.
You just put up with them and you can see like their soul is being drained from their body if they have to do this for the 13th time that day.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
I don't know.
Some restaurants just don't do anything anymore. They just go, we don't do anything.
Yeah, sorry. Everybody here had a birthday.
You're
not special.
Yeah, this ain't a Chuck E. Cheese. We apologize. Grow up.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, that's the thing. I'm more ambiverted, so like.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
That means you're
you're introvert until you take Ambien, and then you're
introverted and extroverted in various scenarios. Like you're not just one or the other.
Oh,
John,
it's
you're
like
more than
ambidextrous,
sort of
on land and water.
Right. That's what that. Yeah. But it's So like there are times I'm very extroverted. Like I'm comfortable in a crowd of people. I'm comfortable being the life of the party. Like I have that.
You know, I feel bad. Last week I listened back to the episode, and I feel bad about the whole like me saying that I don't think you're perceived as fun. I felt like I went in hard, and I didn't mean to. I didn't mean for it to come off like I was saying you were a dud or something.
Right.
I just meant like I think people perceive you as not an intense person, but a serious-minded person or someone that like. But I thought about it too because I thought, if you look at our personalities, because we've both been on ministry staff together at different times, and I think I've been almost jealous of you at times because I'm like the fun uncle, but like if somebody's in crisis, they're going to call John probably, and so there's part of me that goes like, when it hits the fan, like that's the phone call. That's the real phone call. It's not the like, who's going to put the lampshade on their head and like whatever. Who's going to bring the...
You got those calls too.
I mean, I've gotten a few, but they probably called you first. And
I was
then
like,
they were like,
call Johnny and make him feel better.
John's already on another crisis call. Let's call. But you know what I mean? Like, so I think that gives proper context to when I say like, John's, if of the two of us, I'm probably the fun one, but John is also fun, but also is like the guy who is like the rock for people. And
that makes
I wouldn't say this if it wasn't your birthday. I'm just trying to be a little I'm trying to be a little sentimental.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to make fun of it because I think you're being nice.
I think I've called you before when I was in crisis. I try not to I find myself knowing that you deal with a lot of crisis, so I try to not have crisis. You know what I'm saying?
How does that
Do you
work?
think there are people like that around you? Like they go, I'm just not, I don't want to put, I don't want to be a bother to people. So I'll just be like, if somebody goes, how are you doing? I assume they want to hear great.
Good. Yeah, I'm doing great.
I'm doing great.
Right.
Because nobody ever really wants to know. But I think when you ask me, you really want to know. But at the same time, if I was doing really bad, I would not immediately start like if we were having lunch, I wouldn't be like, buckle your safety belts. I'm in hell. Like I wouldn't just go in like that.
I agree with that.
I know you would, and that's what I mean.
You've had to. We've both done it for each other.
We've shared a lot of trauma
that's the difference.
over the years.
You shouldn't have to feel that way because I don't do that to you.
Yeah.
Like I drop my crisis on you all the time.
You do.
You know. So.
Maybe that's what it is. I'm just so exhausted from your crises. I'm like, I can't do this to John.
He can't.
I don't want to reciprocate.
He's already coming apart at the seams.
He can't take this.
No, I do. Like I know my mom will do that. Mm-hmm. There are things that she doesn't want to share because she's. I'll come home at the end of the day.
That's like pride, though, in a way, too. And I feel bad about. Like as I say it, I'm going. If I was giving advice to someone who just said what I said, I would say, Johnny, that's pride. Yeah. You're trying to be together because you're worried about how you're being perceived in a way. Like you say, oh, I don't want to be a bother. But the truth is, you want to be perceived as someone who has it all together, even if you don't.
Well, I think it's more likely that you actually don't. if you're saying you don't want to add more to your friend,
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said.
I think
for
that's
that.
just something I say.
You know, I don't really mean
No,
that.
I don't know. I do think that I've been around crisis in my upbringing a lot. You know, my parents founded a housing and care facility for mentally ill folks. So
Yeah.
I was around people with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, people that heard voices, people that had to we'd have what was called mobile crisis unit would
Yeah.
be called. They'd have to go to mental health facilities because they were in crisis. And then there's just the crisis of how do I feed and care for 30 residents of care facilities that I operate and 24-hour care and raise my family. So my parents went through, my mom especially, more so than my dad, who was kind of just a there, not there. I think Steve Taylor had a lyric in his song that said, my dad went AWOL, absent without leaving. My dad was kind of an absent without leaving dad.
Oh, wow.
But my mom was more with it, always very driven, ministry-minded. But crisis all around, every day.
Yeah.
Just managing, spinning plates. And so maybe that's part of it, is that I have shell shock from that. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be someone else's crisis.
That's very, very interesting.
I don't know.
I think that's worth unpacking after this short break. Yeah, I think to me the beauty of life is going through crisis together in
Yeah.
some ways.
You're right, but in the moment, it feels really hard. I feel like I want to, I don't know, it's easy to say oh, that's the community's the thing that makes it great.
Yeah.
But I always am afraid are someone now going to look at me forever through the lens of that crisis that I had 5 years ago
Yeah.
that they walked with me through? How do you shake that?
I had that talk with someone the other day that I was like, hey, I get it. You've shared and I've shared hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now to be a good friend, every time we see each other, we're going to ask about those things. And if that hasn't gotten any better, there's shame or there's this feeling of, geez, he's probably thinking, how long is he going to deal with this problem before it gets resolved?
Or even if it gets better, you don't want to be the guy we had kids, for instance, we've had kids who came through our youth group here.
Yeah.
And some of them, when they got to be an adult, maybe they were like knuckleheads as youth group kids.
Yeah.
And then as they became adults and tried to integrate into our adult services,
Yeah.
our college group and beyond, they could not shake that perception of them as being a knucklehead youth group kid. And maybe some of it was in their own mind, and they had to move on to another church, or
Right.
just some of them left the faith altogether. And I feel some of that where it's you get almost like a brand put on you when it's a certain kind of crisis.
Yeah, it's hard. I found myself in a conversation, sort of counseling in crisis the other day, where terms were they were applying terms to their experience
Yeah.
that were very large terms.
Yeah.
And for that very reason, I was like, you can use that term if that's what it is. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you what term to use or not use. There may be other ways to look at your experience, because that term does carry with it, if you're not careful, it could be a really heavy weight that you carry that feels like a brand, like you said. So maybe look at it through this. I'm not trying to tell you it's not that.
Yeah.
But maybe don't just throw it on there without exploring it with a professional. I think is what I'm saying.
Right.
Don't self-diagnose certain things that are so heavy to carry, because you can still then be free and healed and all those things. But labels are what they are. They stick to you, and then, like you said, now you're spending your time trying to get out. I never want to be a guy that becomes addicted to therapy or to therapeutic tools or to recovery tools. There's a whole thing about that. People are addicted to recovery.
Yeah.
It's better than being addicted to a substance or something else, I think. But it's almost like, look, I use these tools all the time, but they're not the focus of what I'm doing. I use them to get to the focus. But when you now study it so much, you kind of become a student of, the discipline more than a student of what the discipline accomplishes within you.
Yeah, or getting almost like a high from being listened to in a way that you wish your spouse would listen to you.
Yeah.
Like the therapist is being paid to listen to you, but it still gives you that thing of I felt heard. That's why transference happens in these relationships sometimes.
Yeah. Where
people fall in love with their therapist because they go, he really gets me. It's well, yeah, you paid him $80 an hour. He gets you.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I've never met any therapists or counselors who, in theory, they were, number one, probably already gifted at listening.
Yeah.
and they want to do something good, and they have to make a living. But it is hard though to like I was talking to someone today, like I did not get into writing for money. We were talking though about money things related to writing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I hate this part of it, but also I think this is just what grown-ups have to do at some point. Like, it took me a while to get there.
You mean grown-ups have to demand
right?
More and more money.
I'm going on
things.
strike until this podcast raises more money. But I mean, I don't like it though. It's never like you don't do it for that, but you do have to be a good steward. You have to manage. You have to discipline. You have to budget,
right,
and look at how things go. So I mean, there's a truth to like in therapy or counseling that yes, I am deeply connecting, and yes, you're right. If you have never been heard, then there's no way it can't feel, I'm using this word, emotionally intimate. Like
or just like, it's almost like I was watching an interview with Brian Regan, and he was talking on Dan Patrick's show about he's probably the best comedian ever. Brian Regan's amazing. But he was talking about when he became a comedian, or when he knew he wanted to do comedy, he had a speech class in college, and he was trying to make his speeches funny to make them more interesting. And he made 27 people in his speech class, this low class, laugh. And he said the teacher was like howling with laughter, doubled over. And he was just like, walking back to my dorm from that class, I just knew it was like a different feeling than I'd ever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't feel like this walking back from biology class, and he was just like, I've been chasing that feeling. And there's something to that, of like where, like you said, being heard or making somebody laugh, or just like, there's like these little things. It's like these little endorphin rushes that we get that, I don't know. Sometimes it's like, somebody was comparing it I saw an interview where a comic who was kind of being cynical about pastors who inject their sermons with like a joke to establish contact.
Yeah.
They were talking about like, what must a pastor is experiencing what a comedian experiences, but it's very surface level. And he was saying it was like synthetic heroin. He was like, it's not the real thing, but it's like you're scratching the surface of what the reason we do what we do.
Yeah.
That connection, and you're getting the connection, but it is interesting. And I think therapy is one of those things, like it's such a useful tool, but like you said, like there's limits to it versus your tried and true like relationships that you're trying to make better through the therapy.
No, you need both. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan, obviously.
Or make yourself better so that you can be suitable for a relationship.
Yeah.
And not do damage yourself or whatever.
But I think do realize you don't have usually the interpersonal connection with someone who's your counselor.
Yeah.
That it is a safe environment for a reason.
That's why it feels free.
Right.
Yeah.
That in real relationships, you don't get that safety in terms of they're going to have to depend on you and vice versa. You're going to have conflict that's interpersonal that you don't generally have with a counselor, and that those things do enrich a relationship. I mean, back to your original, whole conversation about bringing crisis to friends, there are times I brought crisis to friends that were hard conversations that it didn't work out.
Yeah.
That I was too much, that the fear came true.
Right.
And I think at 44, it hurts, but I don't regret it. I don't regret like, what I got to be human too, or what am I talking about? All the time. I need to be able to try to do this the right way. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to lie in terms of not being honest. Sometimes it takes me time to figure out what it is. I'm taking more time these days and not just making snap reactive decisions, trying to give myself, I used to think I knew what I felt, all the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm logical first. And now I'm realizing I don't. Like when my dad died, I obviously felt it, but it wasn't a surprise. We knew he was sick. It was beyond my control and responsibility. These are I know my therapy sort of triggers. Like if I'm not responsible for something, then I take it differently. If it was something I could have avoided or done something, then it's hard. That tragically was beyond my ability to help. I'd done what I could do, but it was way beyond me. And also the bigger thing is everybody needed me immediately. I'm the pastor in the family.
Right.
So it's time to plan. It's time to get all the arrangements. It's time to, comfort. And I really take comfort in doing that for others.
Like, yeah. And staying in motion.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually it has to hit you.
It was a year.
Yeah.
It was a year later. It was almost like a timer. And it hit, it's not like I hadn't processed it, but like,
Right.
I never thought I was one of those guys that the year anniversary of something mattered. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't even really thinking about it. I wasn't like looking ahead going, well, here it comes on the calendar.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like my body knew a year later. And I was just like, started really dealing, and I still do. Like I started feeling a different kind of sadness for the loss, that I still carry. Like it's not gone away. It comes and goes, but it's kind of always there at the, below the surface. And I think that's what grief is. I think when something's valuable to you or you love someone, I mean, that's part of it. Something would be wrong if I didn't carry that.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a life controlling thing where I don't, that's not what my dad would want, even. But it's being comfortable going, I don't necessarily know what I feel in this moment like I thought I used to. And my wife really taught me that. Like it may take time, and it's okay to take that time and let your feelings be different than your intellectual sort of musings about things, because everything doesn't go through the brain. So
yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
the idea of like your intellect isn't enough sometimes to be like, oh, it's not logical for me to still be thinking this or feeling this. Sometimes you have to be like, yeah, but you're so many parts, it doesn't matter. Something else is overriding that now.
I think the greatest freedom people could have, that it's freedom for me, is being okay with the fact that we're a logical society, or so we think we are.
Yeah.
That's what the scientific method does, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that we can solve a lot of problems and all.
Yeah.
But we really don't know what to do when things don't work out through the formula.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest example in my life would be like food. Like if you go, here's like every diet starts out the same way. Like, here's the information. Did you know that Brussels sprouts are good for you? You're like, yes, we all know that.
Right.
All you got to do is cut your sugar and fat intake and you'll lose this many pounds a week. Yes, we know.
Right.
But I've already eaten the blizzard. Like when I pull by Dairy Queen, I know what Dairy Queen will do to me.
Yeah.
But it's already happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you never know that.
Emotionally, you've already. Yeah.
But it's like, you ever do that? Like when you know you're about to eat something bad for you and you know it's bad as you're doing it. It's like, it's literally already happened.
Yeah.
In your mind.
Yeah.
And you know it's bad. It's like, so this idea that like we can fix ourselves by just being smarter. We have all the information. We have Google in our pocket. We know everything, and we're no better for it. In fact, we're probably dumber and lazier because of that.
We actually feel more shame because we know now what we're doing to ourselves.
Right.
Like if they're smoking cigarettes in the 40s.
Yeah, you feel bad for those people. Like, these poor people didn't know.
And now people are smoking cigarettes now, and there's no way you can't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think
they got blue lights on the end of their weird USB drives like they're from the future. Like, I don't know what this does to me. I guess we'll find out in 10 years. Popcorn lung. That doesn't sound good. Alrighty.
Yeah, I mean, the
knowledge is never enough.
No, knowledge is not. Well, the Bible says, knowledge puffs up, but love edifies, which means builds.
You know what
up.
else puffs up? A nice blizzard. I'm telling you.
I feel very puffed up.
Whew,
but it's almost like knowledge increases the surface area like a balloon, but there's not really anything but air.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. We're writing this is going to be the sermon, right?
I've used that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they won't remember.
No one remembers.
No one remembers.
It's fine. Guys, I could recycle everything and you
So
wouldn't know.
are you a resolution guy, though, having talked about all the knowledge and how it doesn't really but you're a goals guy, right? You make goals. We call it goals instead of resolutions. And,
I don't like resolutions. Again, it's
because
almost
it feels like a promise to yourself that you're inevitably going to break.
In my 40s, I recognize the rhythms of my body and mind are so intact that I don't need to look at the calendar for them. That this is around early December.
This feels very new agey. I don't know what you're saying right now.
I get
you get the rhythms.
I get out the crystals. No, I notice that I start thinking about what I want to do differently next year, and I know I'm not going to hit all the targets.
Yeah.
But if I start thinking about who am I? And I've read this in books before. Like, you're supposed to reevaluate all of your relationships, which I think is super hardcore, and I wouldn't do it like this. But like a relationship that's toxic or draining or whatever.
Oh,
that
wow.
used
And
to
you
get-
like have to re-up?
Just cut it off. And then like, but basically keep paring down to
I'm
that.
not taking you into January with
Yeah,
me.
it's like, geez, a loyalist could never do that. It's
Yeah.
like, no,
Man,
I mean,
that's tough.
I need people, people need me, and we have faults. I mean, this is what relationships are. But I think, what I do look at is the healthier relationships. I do go, okay, I need to be more intentional because they enrich me.
Uh-huh.
So how can I be a better friend? So that's hey, we're going to do lunch every other whatever. Or, hey, this community group, guys, can we start doing breakfast and going through this book or whatever? So I start thinking like, yes, I want to reset those things. Of course, physically in January, it's time. It's time. I did tell Laura, though, yesterday, I was like, look, we could just go ahead and call it 2024. Just take another year.
Oh, wow.
I mean, just
take a
be
year
free.
off.
We basically did that in 22.
Wow. But you didn't do it on purpose. Like, what would happen if you literally took a year off on purpose and said, let's just see what we look like in 2024?
It would be a lot of new clothes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
So that's a good goal. Like, we're going to buy some new clothes in
Going to buy
2020.
some new clothes.
2023 is going to be the year of the wardrobe.
We won't be able to climb steps, but it's cool. You know what I'm saying? You could take
Just
a break.
take some extra time.
Take a break.
Take a break. Get an inhaler.
Hey, do what you got to do. Yeah. Yeah.
It would be interesting if, like, you let yourself off the hook and was like, look, we're going to go to as many restaurants as we can this year. That's our goal.
I did let myself off the hook for the last few months.
Yeah.
Like ever since
Oh, no, we know.
fall break. Oh, we can tell.
I'm kidding, John. You look great. 44,
It's-
get out of here.
It's vest season is all I got to say.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Vest season says.
When I saw the stage, when I came to church Sunday, there were a lot of vests on stage. It was a lot of vests and long sleeves coming out of it. Is that just like the uniform now of a church staff
Andrew,
person?
I know this is the weather where Andrew's going to wear a vest.
Nobody's arms ever get cold? I don't understand the vest
Well,
people.
your arms are doing stuff.
Yeah.
Your torso's
I
not
always feel like I look weird in those.
in vests.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't
Maybe I haven't tried
got the
on
right one.
Yeah. I got to just start.
Jonnie, it's all about finding the right fit.
I think I'm going vest shopping today. I'm going to figure it
Remember that
out.
old Simpsons song, See My Vest?
See My Vest.
That was
great.
the spoof of Be Our Guest.
Be Our Guest.
Oh,
It's one of the best musical numbers.
yes.
The Simpsons history. And kind of dark.
It was.
It's because it's 101 Dalmatians spoof, so they're like talking about how they make all these. They're going to make the dogs into clothes. Yeah,
And it's Mr. Burns.
yeah. See My
But he's
Vest,
all
see My
these different
vest, made
animals.
from rare gorilla chest.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it was a
Like
long,
my loafers, former gophers. Like it's a whole, very dark.
it was very
Yeah,
high production value.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
it was like, I love absurd
Yeah.
things that took a long time to make.
So my best friend in comedy, Marty Simpson, his brother is actually a composer and has worked on like some Pixar stuff and I can't remember exactly what I think he was a story. He participated in the story for that Bad Guys movie that just came out.
Oh, yeah.
For DreamWorks. So he's kind of moves in those circles, and he wrote a couple of songs that ended up on Simpsons episodes a couple of seasons ago.
Wow.
And so he's recording, or he's voice coaching, basically, Harry Shearer as Mr. Burns singing one of his songs, which has got to be just a complete bucket list moment that you never would even thought of when you were a kid, because that show's been on long enough that he watched it when he was in his 20s probably, or teenage years.
What are we, season 33 or
Yeah, it's
something?
crazy.
Yeah.
So here he is. He's in there in the studio with Harry Shearer as Mr. Burns singing a song that he composed and voice coaching him. And they finish the song, and then they shut off the track. Good, we got it. And then Harry Shearer goes, so that was really fun. What was your name again? And he goes, Alan Simpson. And he goes, Simpson, eh? And then it was one of those things where you just squeal because he said Simpson, eh? In Mr. Burns. And then Alan literally looked at the director and was like, please tell me you were recording. And he goes, no, we weren't. So he didn't get it. He was like,
I'd make him do it again.
oh my gosh, when it's just the best.
Mr. Burns, would you do it again?
I mean, that's like one of those moments you can't even script. It's so good.
I have it's very embarrassing.
Yeah.
I have one of those things. I can't even say it
Why?
because it makes me sound like a real.
This is a
fanboy.
safe space, John.
This is totally private.
Is this about my comedy?
No one knows.
Listen.
So when I wrote the book for Mr. Haslam, I had to interview 25 or 30 contributors
Right.
for the back part. And one of those contributors was Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, I can't believe I'm saying this. And so
You're telling tales out of school.
I had to record a call with Peyton Manning.
Right.
And like he opened the call with, "Hey, John, this is Peyton Manning." Mm-hmm. And I have kept that recording.
Have you?
Oh, yeah. And so like
That's
if
the
I meet
best.
like hardcore UT fans, you know, we're just kind of shooting the breeze, Tennessee stuff. I was like, bro, and it's not because it's some name drop bragging thing. It's like like you just said, it's like who in our lives as UT fans could have Peyton Manning's voice saying that to you?
I was here when that call was happening because
right.
I'd come by the church. We had just recorded or something. You go, I got this call with Peyton Manning. We got to be done. And so then that call started and I stayed and I just sat quiet. And he was so funny and cool.
He was great.
The interesting thing he did, which is not a trick, I don't want to say it's a trick, but it's definitely a Dale Carnegie How to Win Friends and Influence People thing that they teach, which is, and he probably was coached this way from childhood on, but he did that thing in a conversation where you repeat the person's name as you're talking to them. He would tell a story. Now, that was the 97 season. Now, John, I tell you, when we were in the trenches of that was a tough one. I got I injured my knee that year, John. And then I was like, oh, he's doing, it's like a way to keep connecting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was very good at it.
Plus, it's a way to kind of like remind yourself of the person's name. You don't get to your whole end of your statement and be like, I've already forgotten this guy's name.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what a great little like endearing conversational. I don't say it's a trick. That sounds like I'm minimizing it.
It may not be a
He's
hack.
very
it may
personable.
have been just how he was.
It made me go, I need to do that more.
Yeah.
Because that's like very charming.
As a pastor, like one of the worst things that I do, there's many bad things, Johnny. One of the worst is meeting a new person.
Right.
And I'm already now, I've had to meet a lot of people or talk to a lot of people. And
do you do the thing where as they say their name, it's gone?
It's gone.
You go, and you are, and they tell you, and you're literally, you don't remember, you forgot to listen for that second.
And you're everywhere. Like, I can tell you where they're from, what they do. They may share, like, deep, dark things. Like, I can tell you everything about them.
I bet you can share all their problems.
Except their name. Like
all their deep, dark sins.
I've just learned... Yeah, I mean,
I tell you
want to hear about them?
I tell you what, that what's-her-name's got some problems. That's what's good about it, though. You can't gossip in full because you don't know their name.
I don't know who it was.
I tell you what, though, they are running amok out there. Somebody needs to look out. What was their name again?
I
got nothing.
I told him.
What an honorable man. He could not tell us. No matter how much we asked. Yeah.
Also, I cannot tell the truth.
I can't remember. I can't remember either one.
No, I just now have. I realize though, you get a pass if you're still in the initial conversation.
Right.
So at the end of it now, I just go, all right, and then I try. Sometimes I'm gonna try this, and usually I can remember one of them. All right, so Debbie and he'll be like, Bob. Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I hope there's not gonna be a test later, and just kind of play it off like, hey, people struggle. I'm not the only one. People struggle. But the problem is my name's on the website or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing. People have and I'm on stage telling jokes. So if somebody sees me at the show, then they tell me their name. And then it's like, well, of course I'm going to remember you. But you're not going to remember little old me. And I'm like, hey, I'm one of you people. Of course I remember. And then you can't. You just feel like a heel.
I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you.
Tell you what.
But when I put my pants on, I go make gold records.
Yeah. I don't know, man. But it is tough. It's that thing. Regan has a bit about that, about how you get to a certain age and someone comes up to you and they tell you, or you don't know their name, but you know you should, and your mind starts playing a game of Wheel of Fortune with you. You ever heard this bit? He goes, it's like they're walking up, and as they're walking up with like a drink in their hand, and you see them at a party, and you're like, there's a J and a C. Good luck. Like that. And then you're just like, hey, John, what's going on, John? And then they go, my name's CJ. You're like, dang it. But your mind, I don't know. I think you do. You get a little bit of a break to a point. And if it's been months, that's the thing. I'm in and out of our church sometimes where there's a lot of new people and I'm on the road. So when I come back, I go, oh, this person's greeting me. I've met them before. The statute of limitations has passed now.
Yeah.
I should remember their name, and I don't, and I feel awful. And if I ask now, I've damaged the relationship that's now this burgeoning thing in their mind. And I'm like, it's like you set it back It's like you go back to zero if you don't remember their name now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you forgetting my name now? Jonnie.
No, sorry, I text came on the screen. The worst is when there were kids in the youth group who were like friends of friends of friends when we were very,
Forever.
very big, you know? And that's the Lord of them. And so I'll see him in Walmart or something. And it's not like if I'm in Walmart, it's stressful.
Right.
Like I'm not just...
You're not there to be seen and interacted
right,
with.
I'm just trying to survive, man.
Yes.
I mean, have you ever been... Bro.
Yeah.
It's a sea of humanity. And if Laura sent me there to get something...
Right. Just get in there, get your roach
find
motels and get out of there.
I can't find it.
John's
ever.
got a real bad bug problem. I like roach hotels, by the way.
Oh, they're so much nicer.
What it is, the difference is there's a lobby and there's an exercise room on the second
That's
floor.
good.
So
you get the free mints and the pillows.
right, the roaches are like, this is kind of
Wow.
whoa.
Do you guys have a rewards program?
They do, and there's a check-in desk and a whole thing, and then they still die,
Right. Either way,
but it's an extended stay. Anyway, go ahead.
but like when Laura sends me, I can't find it. Like it doesn't matter what it is. She's like, and she has every aisle memorized.
Right.
So that this happened. This was last week. I have to FaceTime her from the aisle. And I'm showing her because it's apparently there and I just can't see it.
This is awful.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And so if someone walks up to me right then, like, hey, Pastor John, and it's like,
Right.
they were a kid I'd recognize.
But you're frazzled.
I'm just like, I haven't seen him in 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
Trying
hey.
to access the queue.
And then the worst if they go, you don't remember my name.
Oh,
do
I
you?
know. It put you on the
Oh.
spot.
I should be like, well, do you know my middle name? I should be like, do you know my social? I mean, like, I don't know, come up with something to shame them back.
But the worst, you remember the worst ever? You remember the story I'm thinking of?
Oh my gosh, I do.
So John and I were on worship staff, not worship staff, but we were worship
We were
leaders
volunteers.
at this church
In
in Knoxville. And it was one of the other worship leaders who was like a lifelong member of this church. And it was her birthday. We were all going to sing happy birthday to her from stage. Huge sanctuary full of people. Sunday morning or Sunday evening service. It might have been Sunday evening service then. And so John's going to lead it off. And he's telling me the chords because I don't know it on guitar. And he's like, geez. And we're singing it. Everybody's singing along. But John's leading. We're leading it into microphones with harmony and everything.
Like big, obnoxious,
yeah.
like happy birthday. Like we're
We're being very over the top.
Big. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, when we get to Happy Birthday, Dear, John is going to lead this because he remembers her name, even though I don't. And John was probably thinking the same thing about me. Well, Johnny will hit the melody note. I'll hit the harmony. We're going to nail this. There might be a millisecond pause. We both went, Happy birthday, dear. It was.
And she goes, You don't know my name. And it was like all of our worst fears
Yes.
were realized.
Do you remember what her name is now?
No.
Her name was Angel.
Okay.
And we let her down.
Wow.
An angel, I
We're
thought.
no angels, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. How did we lose that? It's a church. How do you forget Angel?
My name's Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
Yeah.
like, we're bad.
I still cringe thinking about it.
Yeah, I do too. We're bad people.
Yeah.
Like and we were trying to do something nice. We were using our gifts to try to be,
Oh, we were showing off.
to overwhelm our deficiencies as people.
And man, did
And
we.
instead, it just blew up right in her face.
That was brutal.
And we hurt someone
She
more
did.
than we
I don't know if
helped
she was really hurt, but she definitely teased us about it for the rest of
the
our
rest of our
relationship.
time
Yeah.
there. And she should have.
Yeah. We deserved
If she's
it.
listening today, she should send hate mail.
She'd walk up to us. I remember she'd walk up to us like we'd be at worship practice or whatever. And she'd be like, I'd be like, hey, girl. And then she'd go, Angel. I go, I know now. I was just saying, hey, girl, like. And she'd like stop you in a minute. Angel is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I was harmonizing and everything on that one.
We just lost it.
It was awful.
Man.
Jeez. Guys, this is public repentance.
It is. And I don't know what to tell you, but we did. We blew it. You know who else blew it this weekend?
The Titans?
No.
Okay.
Well, they will. Southwest Airlines.
Yes.
Holy moly. What do we even make of that? 1,500 or so, 2,000 canceled flights or something?
Yeah.
Bananas. And I'm a Southwest guy, so I'm a little nervous. I have all my trips coming up. Like I'm back on the road in 2 weeks. And I'm like, are they going to have this all sorted out?
Yeah.
Do I need to start looking at because everybody else is so much more expensive. So I've just been Southwest. I'm just ride or die, even though it's like Walmart of the skies. I'm like, I don't care. It's easy. My bags fly free. But now I'm like, are we going to make it to these shows? Like, it's nerve wracking to think they're blaming some kind of weird computer failure of they didn't know where their crew was. Because there's like a tracking, there's like a way to track their crew, and it's all about logging in. And if somebody starts like missing dates because they call in, it just keeps stacking these, and it just snowballs. And so they literally were having like flights have to cancel because a crew didn't show up that the system was showing them is there. And you're like, whoa, can this happen? Like they're a big company. I don't want to pile on because I think Southwest is a great company, and I love them. But man, it's scary, right? Like, but here's the other part of it. Sometimes if you're in air travel, everybody's got their air travel nightmare story of like, we waited on the runway for 45 minutes.
Right.
And you're telling your story and people are like, oh, this is awful. Nobody cares. But if you're in a snowstorm and you have plans to get home for Christmas, I would just immediately assume like, this isn't going to happen. Yeah. I would not have gone to, I feel like I'm not the kind, now if you're kind of trying to get home because somebody's sick or what, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about like somebody who's like, we're going to get away to Florida on our trip because the kids are out of school. Like, wouldn't you just have assumed like, this is not going to work out?
I wouldn't have pre-pandemic, but right now, it every time I've tried to fly, it's been delayed.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years.
I just don't have like high expectations for air travel. I'm always nervous, and I always feel relieved when I get somewhere.
I do too. And I told Laura yesterday, I hope it goes back. Like, can it ever recover? Or are we in like a pattern now?
Or is it going to be
a flight pattern, if you will?
We're circling. Is it going to recover but be way more expensive because of like you're paying for that solid, though we upgraded all of our computer systems. Now we know everybody is. That'll be $200 more per flight.
Right.
Like, is that what's going to happen?
Well, I mean, I think that it's already expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even when it's cheap, it's expensive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Watch them be a sponsor now. We'll be.
Oh my gosh.
We'll have to be asked to redact.
Yeah, we don't necessarily know.
Walk this back. We don't know what's
everything
happening.
that could come across.
It's always weird talking
ads.
about a company, and this happens in my act too, where I had jokes about things like McDonald's or McRibs or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, or Chick-fil-A.
You realize that's why you don't have major corporate sponsors now.
Maybe, but it does affect things like when you go to do something like I did Huckabee and I did a couple other things where it's like, these are TV tapings.
Yeah.
And I kept expecting them to be like, you can't. Because like if you do Fallon or something, they want to know every word you're going to say.
Yeah.
And they will. They'll fix it. Like there was a guy, Orny Adams, who had a bit about getting on a bus or getting on the subway. And he looks on this, there's a sign that says like, one out of 100 people has lupus. And he was like, I look around, I'm the only one on the bus. Or somebody on this bus has lupus. That's what it said. Someone on this bus. He goes, I look around, I'm the only one on the bus. Well, when he did Letterman, they go, you can't say lupus. Find another word, another disease that's a little bit less dark. And so he had to change it to psoriasis, which is just like a skin condition.
Yeah.
Which is that it takes the teeth out of the joke.
Yeah.
But he had to do it. So I was always afraid, like, like McRib is one of my favorite jokes that I do. And I was afraid, like, I'll get to do a thing like AGT or whatever. And they'll be like, yeah, McDonald's is paying the bills around here. So
Right.
you can't make fun of McRibs. And I'll be like, that's the whole linchpin of and I'll be like pacing the floor with it and whatever.
Yeah.
That's really, I don't know if I would feel that way now because I have other things I would just pivot to. But you do think about that. So anyway, Southwest, we love you. I hope things get fixed for my own selfish reasons, honestly. But also the people who've been stranded, I do feel bad for. I wasn't trying to say like, if you've been stranded in the airport, you should have known better than to even like pack your bags and go there. It's been a nightmare. But I just do think like, if there's an ice storm, you should expect delays a little bit.
Yeah. I think the thing
not 80% of flights being canceled though.
The thing I agree with most is the part about you being selfish. Like out of all that, that was what really resonated with me.
I'm going to do better in the new year. I'm going to do better this year.
Yeah. A new year?
2023 is going to be the year of selflessness for me.
Oh my goodness.
I did one of those word jumbles where you ever see those when they say whatever words you see are your words for the new year.
Oh goodness.
I always want to see like if they could just, if they're a real, because
cake.
they're always, fart, like just weird, like nonsense words are in
What
there.
has to happen to you for fart to be your word for the year?
It's
you know what I'm saying?
It is. It's the year of the fart for me.
This is
I don't know.
Was very middle school-esque.
It was. That's okay.
No, I'm down for it.
Yeah, it's going to be a juvenile year for me.
All of our new listeners from Life Audio.
A sophomoric.
Like, what have we done?
A sophomoric year. You know, what are we so worried about being childish for?
Yeah.
We're supposed to come as little children.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We're too, how educated am I? Stop it.
Stop it. You're not educated.
But I really am not. That felt like an accusatory tone the way you said it. Stop it. You're not educated.
I was speaking to the
just in general
rhetorical whatever we were talking to.
He understood you.
We were talking to a person who didn't exist at the time. Jonnie, I told someone this morning.
Yeah.
You're the smartest guy I know. So
I don't want to.
I did. I said that. You weren't even around. You didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But I told somebody that. So I don't want to hear it because knowledge puffs up.
It does.
Yeah.
Something's puffing me up. I will say this.
Back to the year of the, okay.
I will say this because I think sometimes my intellect, and I don't say myself the intellectual person, that makes it sound like I'm puffing myself up for real, but I do think I overthink and I overcoach things. And it's part of, like, I'm always thinking about the implications of something that I'm thinking or something that someone else is not thinking when they do something. Oh yeah, but I'm always like a slippery slope guy. Well, this is going to lead to, I'm always thinking of dominoes in my head falling. And one tweet I read about yesterday was about how, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. It was about how, like, what they were calling like hit pieces or exposing problems within the church has become its own like cottage industry in Christian publishing. Like,
interesting. That
we don't talk about anything good happening because it's so much easier to write the hit piece about so-and-so that fell or so-and-so that's got a private jet that he bought with his tax exempt status. Or this, cult of personality that's happening at this church that's clearly a spiritually abusive thing that's happening. And it went on for years, and now here's a documentary. And Christians will consume those things because we see like, oh, I remember that, or I remember being in a church like that, or I'm glad my church isn't like that. We watch it for totally different reasons, but we will consume that. And it's almost like become a cottage industry of those. And he wasn't saying, should we do it? But he was saying, is the spectrum tilting too far to that where that's become its own thing and we're undermining the gospel, as it were? And I'm always falling the more of the side of like, we should expose injustice if the church needs like a reckoning, which I think has happened. Everything that can be shaken will be shaken, and it's happening in this moment of like 24-hour news cycle and like Twitter and people. Victims have a voice that can be amplified now, whereas they could be crushed under NDAs and other things before. And so it's the same idea that happened with the Catholic Church or whatever. Like we go, well, yeah, but it's not how it all is. But we still have to fix it. You can't just say we got to protect this institution.
Right.
But I do think that it's an interesting question.
Well, I mean, I read this from a historian or someone the other day. Like there is a sequence throughout all of history of building, reforming,
right?
Building, reforming, because there's always, if you're going to have groups of people, it's not even like just confined to the religious things.
Yeah.
I think even organization, like I know for our organization outside of what we do religiously, structurally, how we all function together as things continue to change, as we develop really systems, those systems eventually become outdated.
Yeah.
Like they just can't work. What we were doing 2 years ago may need to be changed. So then we have to reform or readdress it. And so I think like, you look at the reformations throughout the church, I mean, that's just a natural thing. And I think it's really important for those who feel, I've had these conversations with some people lately, like when you begin to see everything about the church is all bad.
Yeah.
Which would be easy to see to your point right now, because all you're hearing really is the reformers. If you're outside of the church space, if you're outside of that space and you're just really hearing the criticisms from the outside in, then you could just go, wow. It's very similar to when we used to tell parents before we take kids to South America, like, hey, I know what you're seeing on the news in Bolivia, but if you turn on the news today, if you were in Bolivia and turn on the news in the United States, what would you see?
Right.
Every story is a murder.
Right. It's very alarmist.
Right.
Yeah.
It tells you the worst that was happening. It doesn't really tell you like what life was really like for them. And this is a huge country.
And part of that's because it's what sells.
Right.
And that's true.
Well, yeah,
it's sensational.
And it's not even just what sells. I think it's what's significant. Most significant is going to be probably the thing that affected people in the most negative way.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a truth to that. Like if you're hearing something in a story, it does not mean all Christians, all churches are having that exact thing. It may mean that what's being addressed there is in the cultural milieu of that system to some extent and needs to be watched, needs to be limited, needs to have boundaries placed, needs to be acknowledged. I think we can all learn from it.
Right.
It doesn't mean that everyone's at that same crisis point or that leaders in particular are using those systems for abusive ends in the same way that certain megachurch pastors or certain denominations are doing.
Right.
I know for us, I mean, when we saw things in denominationally, that there was a point where we thought we don't want to be a part of certain denominational things. We don't have to say they're evil.
Yeah.
We can just say that, hey, this is no longer something that we see you changing in a way that we don't align with.
Right.
And so I think that's okay. But I do think that alarmist culture can cause us to not see what is also good.
Right.
It's the same thing, and I hate stats for these reasons because there's always more stats that can come back. And people use this in defense. I'm not defending the negatives of the church. I'm not defending, hey, I believe personally, especially when it's a power struggle, that the gospel is an upside down kingdom and that it's very, very clear. If you're going to be a leader in the upside down kingdom, then you're the first one to wash everybody's feet. You're the first one to confess sin.
You have the most responsibility when things go bad too.
Yeah.
Right.
You should be more broken than the people that you lead. And if you're not, then it's fine, but you're going to get what the right side up kingdom gets all the time.
Yeah.
Like we're going to have power struggles and other things in the upside down kingdom. Instead of living, you die, you know, and in dying, you live. I mean, like it's not platitude. Like that's really how it all works. And it's daily. You don't ever just get there. Like it's one day you screw it up and the next day you repent. And so, but when you have I believe a system of repentance, I think it's less likely that it sets up in some way that can do greater damage would be the hope. But I still think damage happens. I mean, you're human in that respect and situations are hard. But I do think, and someone gave that stat the other day about like something like 75% of charitable donations in the country over the course of the whole year were made,
from faith-based
places. Like there's a lot of good, a lot of poor people being fed, a lot of orphans being housed, a lot of orphans being adopted, a lot of families being served.
Right.
And there's also a lot of things that aren't great, but it's like we said in some episode recently, to be someone who only sees the negative may feel like realism, but it cannot be accurate. Like, I mean, from a purely just looking at the data, like just evaluating data, nothing is all bad or all good. Like it's just not. I mean, besides Nazism, you know what I'm saying? Like you get to super extremes maybe. But in most places, like, hey.
To get you want a full view of it, which means taking in the good too.
Yeah. And usually what we've done wrongly about that is in the past is we had only a good view. And so everything, like I said, that's NDAs and cover-ups.
Or we use the good. Yeah, we use the good that we do to like cover up for, well, yes, but we're doing so much. And here's some abuse thing and you'd be like, but he did so much. Think about how many people he brought into the kingdom. You're like, yeah, but there was horrible atrocities being committed. And then does this not undo this? And a lot of people's minds, how much damage did he do?
Yeah.
So like, that's the thing is like, I don't love the idea. I don't love the idea of it becoming a cottage industry of like, let's write hit pieces on the church. But I also don't love what we've had for the last 30, 40 years, which is like almost like a press secretary mindset of like, let's give them all the high points of everything that we're doing so they don't ask us the hard question on this. And it's like, you're just dancing up there. Like you're the press secretary for the president. You're just trying to be like, you're spinning plates. Like people see through that. Yeah,
I feel more. Whereas it's good to be small. I'll say that. Yeah. It's good to not be important.
Yeah.
There are a lot of benefits to it.
I feel like you're talking about the podcast now.
Wow, it hurts.
Yikes.
But I mean, I also feel though that it is my responsibility now as a leader to certainly with some nomenclature, like, hey, some ways that we're going to say things. I don't want to be politically correct, but I need to be aware of the culture that I'm in, and not invite undue offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because who was it? Was it Rich Velotis maybe, or someone the other day posted, like, it might have been Justin Giboney. It is an amazing tactic of Christians to think that somehow hating the people they're supposed to be reaching could be a methodology for accomplishing their goals.
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to reach the world. You know how I'm going to do that? I'm going to hate everyone who's not like me. And then we could just sum that up as political correctness. We're just being politically correct, and so it's okay. Like, morality becoming more important than people,
right?
And not understanding that is the love of Christ that changes morality. Yeah. It's what changes a heart, and so you can't have both. You can't hate, like, that's that whole love the sin. Hate the sin.
Yeah.
Right. That's a very slippery slope, because as you always say, if you say you want to love the sinner and hate the sin, you always mean
somebody else's sin. Yeah, start with your own. How about hating your own sin for a minute?
Yeah.
Well, and it's like tribalism in general will always lead to compromise, because you start making excuses for the guy that's in your tribe that screwed up.
Right.
But the other guy just wants to burn the country down for the sheer joy of it. But your guy's just a misunderstood genius.
So he makes some mistakes.
He's playing chess, not checkers, when he does the dumb thing. This other guy's an idiot. And it's like, you're making excuses because of tribalism, and it never works. It's always like, it gives you blind spots. Like you said, you only see the bad in others and not the bad in yourself. We need to see everything, see the whole picture.
Yeah, I was talking with someone this week about they were in a relational dynamic in which, they don't give themselves a lot of grace. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very pull yourself up. And I think a lot of us, experienced people, especially in previous generations. My family is very like, hey, you can come with whatever you're dealing with, and we were allowed to talk about those things. But a lot of organizations were not that way. Yeah. This is all on you. But the problem is the moment's coming when you need the grace.
Yeah.
And if it's been now sort of it's coming for everyone, for all of us. And the system you make, and it's what propaganda said, most people don't notice the system until it turns on them. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that politically, but like, the value system that you embrace will be the value system by which you are evaluated. Eventually, it'll come to you.
Yeah.
And that's why you have pastoral cover-ups of things like the guys who are screaming the hardest about family values.
And it could be their issue, right?
And it's their issue.
Yeah. But they protest too much sometimes from the pulpit, right?
And here's the deal, and I'm saying this very delicately, I'm trying to, gingerly, Johnny.
Yeah.
Them having that issue is probably not the biggest issue.
Right.
Because if that issue would have been able to have been worked out before it became a life-controlling or an abusive issue towards others.
Right.
When it was more of a problem in their minds, when it was more of a sinful urge, if you want to say all those things. I mean, to be tempted is not a sin. It's very clear in Scripture. Yeah. But when you're tempted, that's when you're supposed to be able, instead of it being a place of, I have to define morality by this very black and white dividing line.
Yeah.
And now that I'm on one side of it.
Right. And I'm the good guy and they're the bad guys. And then when you go, oh, there's some bad in me, but I can't admit it because I've already come down as this hard liner.
Yeah. I come down on myself then.
Yeah.
Which is what Jesus said, like, hey, the judgment with which you judge others is the way you're going to be judged.
Yeah.
And I think that's less of an eternal statement. I mean, we want to make that all about the great white throne judgment of Christ, or the judgment seat of Christ, or one of those two judgments, Johnny, eschatologically.
Yeah.
But it's actually a principle for living as well. I mean, I don't know what it means for the future, but I know what it means for now. Yeah. That the very thing that you do will be now, eventually it will come around to you. And so if you build a place where forgiveness and authenticity, like if the value system is, hey, I expect there to be sin, that's why I need a savior. I expect to struggle, that's why I need Jesus. I expect to let people down, that's why I need confession.
Right.
I expect to show brokenness because I actually am.
Right.
I'm not having to manufacture it. Like, this is what I really am. Well, then, honestly, there's really not a crisis that can come that can dominate you. Like, you're already in that place. Imagine that grace that could have been given.
Well, and that's the hard part too. When you have a pastor who's like the cult of personality pastor that like makes himself into, I'm the oracle. I don't have this special relationship with God that you could never have. That's the hard part about that is you're setting yourself up to fail, from the get-go, because like it's not real. That can't be real. Like, it's the priesthood of the believer. I think that's what's great about you. No one ever looks at you and is like, John's got it together. No one has ever thought that. And that's the best part.
It's great.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Hey, thanks, man.
I think, this is the best. The thing is, like, I love that we got super dark today for people. We went some places. We didn't talk about then. You want to do it real quick before we go?
Can you do it fast?
John.
Guys,
let's cue the music. Let's go This Week in History, a little segment we like to call Talk About Then. Some interesting things. Amelia Earhart takes her first airplane flight, John, December 28th, 1920. Your birthday, 1920. Did you know that? Amelia Earhart?
Well, it was right after Christmas.
Never to be seen again.
Her airplane was wrapped under the tree. So
yeah, that was dark. She took her first. Well, we don't know where.
Wait, this was her last flight?
Hold on.
No, this was her.
It was her first flight.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I wasn't talking about the one that.
Oh, you're saying you weren't saying like her plane.
That's correct.
Yeah, because they never found the plane, did they?
That's right. Well,
she just vanished.
There's thought they might have found it on a satellite photo I saw the other. Really? It's one of those shows.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but no, I was not speaking of that flight. So.
Gosh. So her first flight.
Yeah.
1920. It didn't say how old she was. The experience, she took her first airplane flight, not as a pilot. The experience made her determined to become an aviator.
Wow.
And she began taking flying lessons a few weeks later. Rest in peace. Maybe she's still here. We don't know. We don't know what happened to Amelia Earhart. Maybe she's a listener. That would be a stretch.
First flight in 1920.
She'd be up there.
She'd be.
It's not without.
No,
it could be a Christmas miracle.
Fraught with.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's see, John. What else? Oh, did you know that you share a birthday with Denzel Washington?
Wow.
Yeah.
And the comparisons don't stop there, do they?
They do.
Okay.
I was trying to think, is there a Hollywood actor or celebrity that's universally beloved? And I could not, because we talked about Tom Hanks one time as that guy, but Tom Hanks is like wrapped up in these QAnon people. They're convinced that he's got some dark thing with him. But Denzel. He's the guy, right? People don't dislike Denzel.
I don't know.
Do you know anybody that dislikes Denzel?
I feel like, wasn't Denzel
If they did, you go, we couldn't be friends, so I don't know those people.
Wasn't he pretty outspoken about his faith at one point?
Yeah.
He may have gotten some criticism from that.
Maybe. But I don't know. I've never read a bad thing about Denzel that I can remember.
Again.
Shout out to you,
yeah,
Denzel.
Thank you.
The first scripted interracial kiss on the Star Trek episode Plato's Stepchildren was between Lieutenant Uhura and William Shatner's Captain Kirk. And she was born December 28th, Nichelle Nichols. Oh, okay. Lieutenant Uhura. Oh. I did not know that was the first interracial kiss, though.
I did not either.
On television, but evidently it was. First scripted, and it was 1967.
Wow.
So, do you know the first, by the way, this is a little trivia for you. Do you know the first husband and wife on a television show that were in the same bed? Because, they had the separate beds for so long. Do you know what show that was?
Was it Leave It to Beaver?
No. Oh, no. They were twin bed.
I do know this.
Yeah.
I can't get it.
Here's the thing. There's who people think it was, and then there's who it actually was. People think it was the Bradys, which was a show that was in Technicolor. It was a color show. But it was not. It was the Munsters.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Munsters slept in the same bed.
Look at that.
Lily and Herman.
Wow.
They had it going on. They didn't have the twin beds.
Yeah. This is
Yeah. So that was
this is important.
You know what? You also share a birthday with President Woodrow Wilson, John.
Wow. Not gonna lie, he's not my favorite president.
Yeah. That's upsetting.
Well,
no, he's not one of my favorites either.
Woodrow Wilson was he was an intellectual elitist. He was the president, I believe, of Princeton College before.
He was.
Was that true?
He was the president of Princeton College in 1901.
Boom.
He had I didn't know this, he had paralyzing stroke in 1919 while still in office. Some claim it was his wife who actually ran the government for the remainder of his term.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
Well, it might have been a year and a half, but
Yeah, he was very like a shell of a man, they think, during that time. But, the president was so guarded
yeah,
that
it was an institution. It
he's
was
not
the office
he's
was
not
the
daily
most.
press conferences and things like that.
Couldn't
Yeah.
happen now with 24-hour press cycle and Twitter and everything. But
Yeah.
back then, do you think Laura could run things if that was to happen to you?
I think Laura would be the president.
I think she is running things.
If in this scenario, it would be her that was elected.
She's in your left ear right now, isn't she?
She's
telling you what
me
to. She's telling
everything.
He knows. He sees. Yeah, she's.
We talk.
Shut it down.
When we get out of town. This honestly, when we talk about
Yeah.
someone in the family running for office, I mean, it has to be her.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she's
Right.
absolutely
Yeah.
perfect for it. But,
Yeah. She's got it. She's smart.
But right now, she has a real
Professional.
job so that we can afford things. So
yeah.
if I would,
Politics doesn't pay as much as you might think. Although you get the lobbyists, you get all that
Can't-
weird lobbyist money that you're not supposed to talk about.
you mean
So
I don't
it's like the what is it called? What is that?
kickbacks?
Kickbacks, and you just get the. It's not good.
And your kickback will lead to your setback.
Well, then they have in the bills they put pork in there, which is a bunch of extra stuff, right?
Oh, I thought it was like
They call it pork,
yeah. No, they do call it pork.
which I don't know. What did that happen? Where did that come
I
from,
think
John?
pork barrel spending is what
Okay,
it's called.
pork barrel spending.
Yeah.
But it's not pork as like you could if somebody bribed me with pork, I think I could be.
You're like, I'm down for this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna have to throw it away anyway.
Yeah.
You can't. Once you've handed it over the counter, you can't give it back to them.
So you're telling me you voted this way because someone gave you a ham sandwich? Is that what you're saying, Senator? I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then he loudly belched and was excused from the chambers.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's This Week in History for this week, John. And
Wow.
Denzel, buddy, that's
Hey, man.
Oscar winner.
Denzel and I go way back.
You've never looked before to see who you share a birthday with?
I have not actually.
That's a pretty good one. Denzel and Woodrow Wilson. That's some strange bedfellows there.
Yeah. Woodrow, again, my problem with Woodrow is he previewed a movie in the White House called Birth of a Nation.
That's right.
That was
the most racist thing ever.
A very, very racist film. But you got to realize that the KKK was having a huge resurgence
Yeah.
during the late teens.
Yeah, as a
early 20s.
political movement. Yeah.
Yeah, like during the...
That'll never happen again.
Oh, here's hoping.
My, please, no.
Have I told you, and again, we have to go, but I was driving to West Tennessee this week, and it gets me that there is a Nathan Bedford Forrest State Park
Yeah.
in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it's near Fort Pillow.
Which is where he committed
which
the
is where
atrocities.
he committed the most of his. I mean, and I
that
don't
crazy?
know. I got to look up the history of that. But
That's some tone deaf stuff right there. Come on, Tennessee.
I don't think that could be most likely a coincidence. But,
I'm going to say something. We're going to get a letter writing campaign.
again, because I'm going to guarantee that park wasn't named until the 20th century.
Yeah.
I would guess.
Yeah.
So you're talking 50 years ish.
Right. We had time to go.
post-war.
Let's not celebrate this.
Yeah, and forgive me. Maybe it was. Could have been 1890s, but it couldn't have been earlier than that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's disheartening, guys. Hey, we hope that this has not been disheartening for you, though.
Happy birthday to John.
Dear.
Oh.
We hope
Just
that you've enjoyed
hanging
our
out.
time together, and there's a lot of other things you could listen to related to this podcast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like we know you.
Guys, go somewhere
Start
else.
listening to those things, please.
Where would they go, Johnny, if they wanted to
Talk
hear more?
about that podcast.com. And those so many archived episodes, and that's been fun. We have so many cool things coming for you, and we've got the new partnership with Life Audio has been cool. They've been great. The transition has been good, and we're grateful for them. And and they have a bunch of other podcasts too that you may hear us kind of cross promote.
Yeah, you can go to lifeaudio.com and find dozens of other really cool podcasts. So you should go check it out about all kinds of things.
That's a lot. Do that, please.
Yeah.
And go to John's Amazon. Search for John's books on Amazon. 23,000 books John's written.
My goodness.
Very important.
Very busy.
Make it a birthday present to him to go buy a book of his and leave a review.
Wouldn't that be terrific?
Wouldn't that be the happiest birthday
It
of all?
needs to be a good review.
Oh.
Because that'd be a bad present. I've got a lot of those.
I need to go
before.
back and amend my review.
So, yeah. I'd like to make an additional statement.
I don't know who that last guy was.
Oh, my
I think the
goodness.
book's fine. It'll even out. You'll up with a 3-star once I'm done.
That's right.
That's fine. Yeah.
Usually the podcast a 5-star review, though. You should go check it out wherever you listen to podcasts.
That helps other people find the podcast. My website's johnnyw.com, JONNIE. You can find new tour dates, which I'm all over the place in 2023.
Yep.
Very excited about the new year.
Yeah.
New year, new me.
Oh, it's going to be great. Go check them out. If you've never been to a Jonnie show, guys, it is a treat. It is so much fun. So, hey, hope you had fun with us as well today. We'll see you next week on
Talk about that.